Awesome, Ken, man. Well, really appreciate you joining me today. I've been a fan of Republic for a really long time. The platform being built, all the products. I remember when it sort of first launched, and it's awesome to see what the company and the brand has become. Before we get started on Republic, talk a little bit about your mission, just your journey and your sort of career arc to finally emerge into co-founding Republic. What was that journey like for you?
Well, first of all, Grant, thank you so much for having me. I can't believe we're now in year 8 on this journey. And so much has happened the past 7+ years, but I think we are just barely scratching the surface at the very beginning. I think at the core of what we do, the mission, though, has never changed. And it's the conviction, first and foremost, that people should have the same access to opportunities when it comes to finance, money, wealth management, in the same way that we have the same access to consumption, right? Like you and I, we may not be able to, every day go buy a car. And some people certainly can do that, Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift. But we have the ability to, meaning we don't have the money, but it's not like we're not precluded from it. So if you're a teacher, we want everyone to have the same kind of access to venture capital, real estate, movie financing, music financing, and the wealthiest among us invest in several different continents and countries, and just being able to provide that accessibility. Not necessarily that everyone would do that, but I think that financial access, financial equity is very much at the heart of what we want to see and what we've been building. But it started with my involvement at AngelList, of course, launching the very first few syndications. Itself is a form of accessibility and inclusion, and then went on over time with legal changes here in the US and beyond. We, of course, launched Republic in 2016, and since then now have, I think, over 3 dozen wholly owned subsidiaries and affiliated and sister companies, and operating, I think, in 3 continents now, each of which, in a way, is still a startup. But we've come a long way.
When you were first, I guess maybe the light bulb moment or the catalyst for starting, Republic, I think it was 2012, sort of the Jobs Act here in the United States was sort of enacted, and that perhaps opened the doors up for the possibility of a Republic like that to be built and sort of other platforms similar. Can you, I guess, take us back to maybe, 2012, 2013, 2014? Was the Jobs Act and that passing the catalyst for the idea of maybe even starting Republic?
I think there's one word in what you just said that really stood out for me, and that's possibility. And I think much startup building a new company is capturing or hoping that you're launching and you capturing the right moment in time when something is just becoming possible, that no one else has seen it or capturing it, and that you're the first to market and be able to flourish ahead of everyone else. So for us, it's crazy, but for 80 years since the Great Depression, right, the retail public, by law, by legal impossibility, could not invest in private securities. So through that whole Great Recession, and the laws then changed in around 2012, but they didn't really get fully implemented by the SEC until 2016. So in the United States, that legal possibility didn't materialize until 2016. That's exactly when we and a few other firms launched the business model of allowing the crowd to invest.
Yeah. And man, what a journey it's sort of been from that point, because now you started with, equity crowdfunding at its sort of foundational level was what Republic was sort of, built off of. And for those who don't know, I mean, maybe just at a very elementary level, perhaps people might not know what equity crowdfunding is. Can you just maybe explain at the base level of sort of what that is and why that's a sort of a new thing, for the public and just for the financial sector in general?
I think the word crowdfunding is as
Mm-hmm.
broad as
Yeah.
possibly as broad as the word finance. So let me define that first. The Kickstarters and Indiegogo in like the late 2000s, they launched with, I think, not to to paraphrase their mission here, to allow people to come together and bring an idea into reality by purchasing and
Mm-hmm.
funding products. Like, I want to see a paper cup, assuming the paper cup hasn't been done before. So Grant and Kendrick each put $20 in and pre-buy the first 10 cups. So that's
Yep.
essentially e-commerce with pre-purchase. You also have like the GoFundMe, whereby, hey, I need money for a trip to Vietnam to visit my ailing grandmother. And therefore, Grant and a bunch of friends put in $10 each and give it away to Kendrick to fly to Vietnam. That's also crowdfunding. Right? But the notion of equity, when you add on that term equity, it means securities. You have
Mm-hmm.
an interest in something that if they do well, you're going to get, more value out of your stake. You're not getting a thing or a service. You're
Yeah.
getting that upside. And that necessarily implicates securities laws. So the world of commerce and finance there's a huge barrier in between, and that's the regulatory barrier. That means the SEC and FINRA and
Yeah.
thousands of pages of law that separate the two worlds. That's the difference between the Kickstarter and GoFundMe world of crowdfunding and the world of equity upside crowdfunding. Mm-hmm. That side, though, the equity side, is by now barely tapped. But that means giving the general public the ability to have upside in the world around them. So if the Indiegogo's model of crowdfunding is about people coming together and see ideas coming to realize into products, then what we do on the retail investing, we call it retail investing, right, in equity crowdfunding, is that people should have upside and share in the success of things around them they care and back and support. So if they're the first drivers and first users of the next Airbnb and Uber, there's no reason why they are not also a tiny stakeholder in these companies, so that when these companies go public or get acquired, they get a little bit of a payment as a nod. It's not going to make anyone rich. Just to say that you've been with us, you have a little bit of that upside. And I think that's the future that is materializing in front of our eyes, with or without Republic, which is hoped to be or aimed to be a leading player in that emerging ecosystem that soon will be the next phase of finance.
Just to give a couple numbers here, since 2016, Republic has deployed over $2.6 billion in investments, supporting over 2,000 ventures, everything from, a startup brewery to even a movie, like you said, a film or a technology company, to a, camping gear company, whatever it might be. A community of over 2.5 million users across 150 countries. Did this even expand, your expectations or your wildest dreams of what the platform sort of has become? And we're still so young in it, right? When you take a step back and take a breath for the moment, like, are you pretty proud of what you and the team have accomplished so far?
It's a great question, Grant, because it's a question about both reflecting on what we have done and whether it has met our and others' expectations. Mm-hmm. On the one hand, it's an incredibly difficult business model to build. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of, with everything that we quote unquote accomplish, there must be 10 projects that failed. It costs so much money and sleepless night that people don't know about, of course. So on the one hand, just to persevere and be here and to be able to actually have deployed real money into businesses and allowing communities to become owners in things that they love, that of course we're incredibly proud of it. But I do think that the pace of adoption, everyone has expected it to be much faster. I probably had a more temper the view of the pace of adoption. But to give you an example, 2023, we fully expected that the economy and the pace of investment in retail adoption would be much more or much higher than what it was. So a more nuanced take, I think, to answer your question is that I'm incredibly proud and grateful to be able to do what we have done at Republic with the support of our community. But we are so early on in so many ways. I think we bear resemblance to the profile of a pre-seed company. Despite being quote unquote a unicorn. Like when people think of like, oh my God, you're a unicorn, it means like you're so stable and team members work like 5 days a week and on the weekend you don't have to like hustle all night. No, the weird thing is we very much have that, not only the mentality, but still the volatility and the upside potential of a seed stage company because the market is still so nascent.
Like we've talked about what Republic was sort of at its start, equity crowdfunding, and now the product line has expanded to so much. I mean, like how do you, when somebody's first introduced to Republic, now versus 2016, 2017, 2018, I guess, how do you explain Republic now to a person who's not familiar with it? It's their first introduction into it.
It's challenging indeed. Even when we onboard a new team member who typically comes in to a specific business line or specific division at Republic and explaining to them at a high level a comprehensive view of what we do. If I may try like a 30-second explanation.
For sure.
And it starts, of course, if the mission is so that anyone and everyone can transact and trade cross-border in small amount with liquidity, then we look at the solution currently, and the private market is very much one country. You need a lot of money to play with no liquidity. What Republic is building today is the first and only investment infrastructure that allows someone, no matter net worth or background, to buy things, securities, Web 2 and Web 3, digital and traditional, cross-border with increasing liquidity and at scale across a wide range of assets. If Amazon at the core is an e-commerce infrastructure on which you can buy a wide variety of things from Netflix to books, then Republic is building a nascent e-finance infrastructure on which there are a wide variety of financial products to be offered that fits, hopefully one day, whatever it is that the end user wants to invest or have an ownership in. They can go to Republic and expect that to be the first one-stop shop for that interest there. So we are a digital investment infrastructure company first and foremost. And on top of that, there's a growing array of financial products that provide more and more choices to the public, from non-accredited to family offices with many $1 million to deploy.
Right.
And depending on the team members' expertise and interest, they will join a particular segment. No different than a team member joining Amazon, maybe working on the whole food division versus one on the Amazon Prime division.
Yeah, right. Or AWS or Audible. I mean, they have so many different companies, but you're right. I mean,
we think that finance and financial products should be as accessible as consumption and commerce. So we are building that e-finance, parallel to Amazon being an e-commerce.
When we talk about, the United States and then, other countries around the world, there's so many laws and regulations in every country, right? And going globally and starting certain things, has it been more of a challenge to grow products in the US or to open in other countries? Like taking a company global has so many different dynamics to it. What were some of the challenges? Obviously you faced a lot of domestic challenges early on of building this financial infrastructure around, FINRA, SEC, all these different regulatory hurdles. When you start to expand globally, was it easier? Is it harder? Like, what is it like to grow a startup globally? It's so hard to do it just domestically, but you're going global. Like, what are some of the hurdles that you faced as you've scaled?
Grant, for founders out there, followers of your podcast, I think challenge can be a huge moat and a huge opportunity if you can hack it before anyone else. So that example that I gave earlier about this invisible barrier between commerce and finance being the regulatory barrier, the additional complication is that that barrier looks and feels different in every single country. So it's far easier for Amazon or any e-commerce platform to launch internationally because much more lightly regulated. But for a highly regulated business model like Republic dealing with financial products, you have to deal with overcoming these barriers. First of all, understanding them and then overcoming them in each new market, which is precisely the reason why right now, 2024, February, outside of Republic, there is no other private investment platform that has managed to cross border. We now operate between Europe and US pretty seamlessly and have nascent operations or ownerships in a few other countries. And we did so through acquisition and then combining the strength and weaknesses of the entity that we acquire. But indeed, figuring out how to make that first bridge cross-border was a ton of effort, but now gives us a very distinct advantage. But Grant, to give you one additional detail here, let's say for the private markets, secondary trading and liquidity is critical to flourishing private markets. The laws around secondary trading is much more onerous and extreme in the US than it is in most countries. So it's not necessarily that we face more challenges externally. It may very well be that the laws are different and you just need to understand them. And as it turns out, certain markets are even more ripe to expand into than here in our home base, the United States of America.
I want to talk a little bit about the rise of crypto and maybe specifically like, stable coins or whatever it might be, how that maybe has accelerated the ability to go global, accelerated the ability of liquidity across products. Like, I guess the rise of crypto, has that been a really positive thing or more of a headache, right? Because then you have to deal with that. And then there's all kind of other things that come on top of that, regulation wise, and just talking with, regulators in general, as that, obviously came top of mind to a lot of retail investors and institutions. But I guess how did you see the rise of crypto play in the part of like Republic's lifespan and journey so far?
Let me touch on blockchain or crypto at the foundational level first, and then its application at Republic. Crypto as a technology, I think technology is, generally speaking, a wonderful thing. And this is no different. Here you have a scenario whereby not a single instant of failure that is Bitcoin over the past, many years, 15 years, right? There's no instance of breach, of hack. Every transaction has been done and validated and maintains integrity. But how people use technology, that's where it can be good or bad, desirable or undesirable. But technologies in and by themselves, in this case, distributed ledger technology, is of course a wonderful thing. And it's wonderful and transformative for finance because of its ability to fractionalize anything. The Mona Lisa down to a billion pieces and to automate so many things. And if you apply automation and fractionalizations to finance, it necessarily means people are going to be able to do things more cheaply, a smaller amount. It necessarily means more people are going to be able to participate, more liquidity pool into every asset class, and naturally, like rains to a desert, that, things are going to become greener. Now, of course, if you then have edge cases, whatever the next meme coin may be, now that's entirely speculative. And I think in that world, so much of the activity is still around, with the gambling mentality here. But what we do at Republic is that we look at this as a technology that we believe will fundamentally change all aspects of the financial industry. Every share, common and preferred, every LLC membership interest of a food truck on Fifth Avenue or in San Francisco will be all done digitally in the same way that, electronic mail versus traditional snail mail. So we're leading that digitization of financial infrastructure and is core to what we do. But we're somewhat agnostic about the end product that's presented to the world. Put it another way, Grant, today, Republic has the ability to help someone, a company, let's say the 49ers, if they're like, hey, we want to send out $2 each to 5 million fans. Dude, we have the ability to do that right now, that we can set people up on a Republic wallet, help the 49ers send out $2 each in stable coin directly to their wallet. They can convert it back later. This is something that was impossible to do then, and it's impossible to do now without this technology. I mean, no one can send ACH wire in a cost-efficient manner, $2 a pop to 2 million people. That exemplifies the scalability and the cost efficiency if you apply this technology to banking and payment settlement. One of many, many examples how this is transformative at that level. So yes, we are very much a digital financial firm. And it's so funny, Grant, I have now to use words like digitization, digital, because crypto is a dirty word for many still. But it is what it is. The technology is here to last.
I want to dive into a little bit of the, right now as you're, in the middle of, scaling and going global and, all these different, I can't imagine your day right now and what your calendar's like. And, it's got to be intense as it can be. I guess, what are some of the big hurdles you and the team face right now? What are the hurdles that you and the team are trying to solve for?
First, I want to share a statistic. In 2023, apparently over 3,500 venture-backed startups in the US went under. And something like 2/3 of venture-backed companies that are still around have less than 6 months runway. We're incredibly lucky in that not only did we survive 2023, we're in a pretty robust financial position, but we're navigating and wrestling with the question of capital efficiency every day, particularly when we're doing so many things. And if one thing that seems to work to the external world means 3 other projects didn't work and cost us money. So I think the biggest stress, just like I think a lot of people now in today's society, right, struggle with making sure that you manage your finance properly, or every family needs to do that. I think we are no exception. And so the more we do, the more the dance, the juggling of capital efficiency becomes more intense. So I would think that that's probably something that takes up a lot of mental bandwidth for me and the team at Republic. But if we do it well, and if we do it better tomorrow than we are doing today, it means the company is going to be that stronger yet as we continue to grow. I think the second aspect of what we do that is still quite challenging today is managing a distributed team in part, with some of the division being very much in person. And no one has the silver bullet, Grant, in the same way that no one has the silver bullet on like a diverse workforce. Everyone knows that like if you have more perspectives at the table, it's building a better product, it's better for everyone. But is there a company out there that has like perfect diverse views with how it means? Like no. So the bigger we are, the harder it is to address some of these concerns and challenges. But hey, nothing in life is worth doing if it's not challenging, right?
You mentioned the startups that have ran out of money, filed for bankruptcy, just the hopes and dreams have sort of gone for those founders, right? It's sort of a really tough time for them and sort of their life. And I kind of wanted to talk about leadership and maybe some advice you would give to potential founders in sort of that scale up moment a little bit right now. what are some tips, advices, like whether it's books, whether it's videos, whether it's podcasts, whether it's mentors, what advice would you give founders around like leadership, how to hone that, right? How to develop that skill set and that quality? Do you think that can be learned and brought out of people, or do you think some people are just naturally sort of born with it?
I think like incredibly brilliant builders and quite influential figures in tech, like my former boss and mentor, Naval Ravikant, and
Mm-hmm.
Alexis Ohanian's the world have written many books about leadership that are much more insightful than anything that I have to share. But I have one thing that, if I may, I took an Uber ride from a meeting at Stanford to San Francisco yesterday. And the gentleman, the driver, I think reminded me of something that I believe passionately in. And I think it is such a simple but a critical advice and perspective that I certainly aim to remind myself of it every day. And if I would love to share again, which is, I walked into an Uber and he was like, "How's your day? How are you doing? Is life amazing?" And I'm like, "My man, you're so positive. You're incredible." And
Yeah.
he said, he's like, "Oh," and it's like, "How was your day?" He's like, "Of course my day is amazing because I hold myself to having an amazing day every day." And I was like, "Are you serious? You not had a bad day?" He's like, "No. My life, I don't give myself permission to not have a bad day because I woke up today. Guess what? I'm still alive.
Yeah.
That won't be one day you're going to not wake up." And I looked around and all of my good friends and close family, everyone is still alive. Again, many days in the future, you're going to wake up one day and that is not the case. What choice do I have but not feel so grateful and excited that I have a day ahead and I'm still healthy and have all of these opportunities? So I think if you remind, and particularly if you lead a team, if you're on a mission to build something and on a certain days or weeks or month, and it seems like everything is so hard, and you just have or regain a sense of perspective on how incredibly lucky we are to be able to pursue our mission and have that positivity. That is what people who rely on you to lead, who rely on you to set an example, look to in the moment of challenges. And so you owe it to them, but most importantly, you owe it to yourself to have the right perspective and know that, it doesn't matter what happens, that sense of gratitude and excitement and whatever it is that you need to do to have that sense of excitement and energy. Cold plunge in the morning, going for a run, meditation, hug your kids if you have kids, hug a tree if you don't have if you love, plants and trees, whatever it is to do, get yourself in the right mentality to have an amazing day. I really think that is a learned thing. Happiness and positivity is very much a learned trait, and it's a critical thing for any leader that aims to build for any length on any difficult journey.
Love it, man. I'll end on the last question, just a little bit about the future, and going back to the team and the leadership, and even the board. Like over the next 3 to 5 years, what are some of the goals and successes you and Republic and the team would like to achieve?
Wow, it's a hard question because I'm not one who necessarily looks forward in the future and set this critical goal, right? I mean, which is weird because you build a startup and the board and investors expect you to say, "Hey, next year we're going to reach 2x revenue growth," and we make and we do aim for that. But for myself and for the team, I definitely passionately believe in the trend that assets are going to be rapidly digitized. The retail public are going to want to own things they care about. And the goal for us is to keep on building nimbly and continue and more to be that go-to platform when people think about ownership. So if I can share one KPI for Republic in 2024, which we share with our board, is that we want to make sure that there is a global, well-known brand. It may be the 49ers, it may be Man City, it may be Twitter or X, it may be SpaceX, that come and use Republic's infrastructure to allow the community and fans around the world, not just in one country, to own a little bit on a revenue share basis of that enterprise. If we manage to do that, this notion of finance and ownership will very quickly become a thing that people will know about. They're like, hey, I want to own a piece of the Sacramento Kings too, because I'm like such a huge fan for like a decade now. So that's like a business objective. But quite frankly, we, obviously continue to very much hope that like to just have fun doing this and make fewer mistakes than the right decisions. And if that's the case, and if we can end every single year and say that we've got more done than mistake, then that's a good year. But yeah, I'm very, very excited about the future ahead, notwithstanding all of the crazy insanities in the world. I think we're trending towards a world that is still more connected through technology and more accessible, certainly so much more accessible.
Amazing, Kendrick. Thank you so much, man, for taking the time. I like I said, I know you're busy. I know you have a lot on your plate, but again, super impressive what you and the team have built so far. I know it's a very, difficult sector to operate in, domestically, globally, and it just takes resilience, man. It really just takes resilience and a vision of what's possible to build in the financial sector. And there's so many hurdles, and it's very difficult, but it's also, a mission we're fighting for. And so appreciate you and the team's all the hard work so far, man, and best of luck to you and the team for the next decade.
Thanks so much for having me. And this made my weekend, and can't wait for a conversation in the near future.